So let's jump to the lab. It's not complicated to use smart alerts. We're going to go look at the alerts tab, show the alert control options, tune the alert thresholds, we'll enable and disable notifications, and then change the notification settings. So with that, let's go ahead and let's jump on over to the lab. And yet again, we'll jump into the lab. Let's see here. So we're going to go ahead and just take a look at the alerts tab. And again, if you want to see administrative alerts, you would go up here to the world object. But I don't have any administrative alerts, but if I did, you have to look at them at the world level, not below that. So just keep that in mind. And then let's see, my weather map still looks like a Christmas tree. Since I had one of my hosts flip out on me, it should make for some interesting alerts though. But a few things. Down at the bottom, we hit on this earlier. This is the alert volume. It basically shows the alert count by type. So again, you've got your warnings, you've got your immediates, and you've got your criticals. And it shows over the last 7 days what it looks like. It gives you current number of active alerts, which right now for me is 9. That's pretty high. And over on the left, or I'm sorry, the right, I get my lefts and my rights confused, we can see here you can split out and it gives you all your different alerts right there. See the same information as we jump to the alert tab. Let's go ahead and let that draw. Before we do that, let's see. First I want to show you notifications. So here's where you configure notifications. You hit plus, and it's just going to ask you to create some rules, and you need to create rule names. So lab demo rule 1, and give it an email address to send to, something like that. And then you can tell it administrative alerts, health, risk, and efficiency. So again, your 3 major badges and your minor badges along with your administrative alerts. So if you want to check them, and I suggest you don't do efficiency because you don't really want to get alerted, at least in my opinion on that. And then you may want to set immediate and critical, and you can even give object names as well as the children or child objects underneath those, and you hit OK. And it'll go ahead and save it. And you can create multiple rules that go to different email addresses based on however you want to do it. But keep in mind that to do this, you have to configure your administrative configuration. So if we go 192.168.200.240 admin, just as a quick refresher, log in again, and you'll go to the SMTP SNMP tab, let it pull up the config information eventually, and you need to enable these. So you can enable SNMP. I only have SMTP, but you need to put in an email address or email server, sender names if you use encrypted, things like that. If you don't enable this, it will give you an error when you try to create this rule. So real simple. And also just a reminder again that we have our kind of policies and our settings here, and it just kind of depends on what you want to do. We have the default policy. You can create other policies, but again, it's all about setting these badges. So if you want to adjust when you get alerted on badge color changes, you need to change those in here, and that will go ahead and affect when you see your alerts. Down at the bottom, this is where we do configure alerts. You can basically say what type of alerts on the different objects. So workload, maybe you don't want to know when a data store is at 90%. You can disable that. Problem is you're not going to get alerted at all, so keep that in mind. But you can enable and disable each of those across the board for infrastructure, VMs, and different groups. Groups, again, is that new feature in 5.6, so if you're previous to that, you won't see this. By default, it turns off the efficiency alerts, waste, and density, which again, as I mentioned earlier, I agree with that. So if you want to get the alerts, you can check them here. If you don't want to be notified via email, you can turn that off within the notifications setting, but it gives you that kind of, flexibility. And it says here generate alerts on individual faults. Individual faults factor into the overall fault score. However, each fault is an indication of a specific issue. I would go ahead and do that on each one. That way you can track each fault individually and look at it within the alerts panel. So that's pretty much your configuration, your badge thresholds, and then your alert configuration. So we'll cancel, done, and back to the alerts view. Let me move this out of the way. So again, we have the same kind of extended view that we did on the main dashboard showing 7 days ago. We can see all of our alerts here, and we can filter these types of alerts. So starting here, we can suspend and suppress. Remember, those kind of hide the alert for minutes, hours, or even days. This is where we can take ownership. we can release ownership, we can cancel the fault, and then we can filter. So we can say, show me only administrative alerts, which I have none. Show me system alerts, which I have none. And well, actually these are all administrative alerts, sorry. Then we can do things like your health major badge and its minor badges, risk major badge, minor badges, and efficiency. So you can kind of suppress anything that you want to, or just show those. When we look at the different fault, you can also do searches, of course, context search right there. But then we can start looking at, like Megatron here had a link state down fault. If I double click that guy, we can go into the kind of alert or fault view. So let that draw out. And it gives you again the name, Megatron, link state down, gives you some information. This guy's actually powered down right now, so it's not a lot of real good information. And then your link state down, the source is VMNIC 0 and all the information. Let's pick another one. Let's see, high number of metrics outside their normal bounds. So I lost Optimus last night. Well, I'm not sure I lost him, but he rebooted on me, and since he's come back up, he's starting to throw a lot of anomalies, so I need to go look at him. It's interesting timing. It wasn't my plan, but that's what makes my dashboard look like a Christmas tree today and gives us some interesting things to look at. So, you know, call it good fortune if you'd like, but it is what it is. So we can see here we're above on our metrics, a lot of anomalies, 61's above the normal 50, and you can see our chart here with our gray dynamic thresholds. Below here's the information and what we're starting to see, as well as key performance indicators. And again, you can click on faults, you can click on anything. If we click faults, it'll adjust that just like we would in the operational details panel. It shows you the host he is, and if I click that, it'll go to the detail page under the operational tab. Down here is some of our root calls. So high number of metrics outside their normal bounds, 135 abnormal out of 2,387 monitored. And it shows you a lot of information. It's a lot of data store and other information. We're seeing a lot of instances, write latencies, things like that. And honestly, I had an HA event last night. Everything kicked up, and this host has been powered down a while. So I believe it's just telling me that, you know what, I don't have a lot of high metrics for this thing. When I started booting up VMs and things on it, it got kind of out of its norm, and it will readjust these, but I need to actually go look at the host and see if there's an issue. But point being, you can click on the alerts and pull back all sorts of information. Let's see another one. Here's data store 2. It's a workload. He's above 80%. So he's gone, I believe it's yellow or orange, I can't remember. We'll see here in a second, but it'll give you information on that. Here we go. So 80% is again yellow, and it shows us our usage. We peaked up a little bit there for a while, and we're back down. And it's real simple. Under root calls, the object's demand is 83% of its available resource capacity. Disk space is the most constrained. You may say, well, it's a data store. Of course, not really. Could be I/O. vCenter Operations does try to figure out the maximum I/O a data store can handle, and it does that by looking at the IOPS and watching the latency increase as IOPS increase. So it does try to figure that out, and that could be a factor as well. But here you show all of your information, your throughputs, your reads, your writes, and your latencies, and you again can click what's this mean, and it'll show you all the information. But we've got it set to turn yellow at I believe it's 80, something like that. I think it's 80, and so it'll do that. Hit close. So what you see there depends greatly on the type of alert that it is. You can see all of these. So if you got an alert like this data store, I can come in here and I can cancel. Actually, that's not a fault alert, is it? Network, that should be a fault alert. And you can cancel that, and it'll get rid of it out of here, but you really need to go back to vCenter and fix that problem. I had seen issues in previous versions where faults would not clear out once they were cleared out of vCenter, but now you can just clear those right there. And then, you know, take a look, say, you know, this guy's changed from gray to yellow, so sensor change, and I could come in and say, I'm going to take ownership. It says, do you want to take ownership? Yes, I do. If we scroll to the right, we'll see that the control state has changed to assigned where they were open. Status is active. And it's been like that for a little while, so we can look at it and go, yeah, okay, that's interesting. Can't cancel that because it's not. Nope, it was a fault alert, and it lets me cancel that guy. So you can come through and take a look at these and take ownership and do what you want to do. You can suppress them, you could suspend them. Let's see, suspend how many intermittents. If I suppress number of days, so I could say 5 days, and it'll go away for 5 days. And if it's still an active alert, it's still going on, it'll pop back up in 5 days. But if you're like, you know what, I fixed this problem, I don't want to see it in this list for a week. If a week it comes back, you can put a week in there, and if it comes back in a week, you'll know it's still a problem. If you never see it again, you know it's no longer a problem. So that is the point of alerts, and the idea again is it's all based on smart alerts, all based on dynamic thresholds and the intelligence out of the analytics engine with vCenter operations. But this is where you see, this is where you manage, and we're going to talk more about the alerts in the custom UI in that lesson, because there's a little bit more flexibility and capability there, but still, you know, it's pretty good here in the standard UI as well.